across Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. Our top stories tonight. Nigeria's former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, acknowledges late MKO Abiola as winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election. Central Bank of Nigeria retains interest rates at 27.5%, first hold in almost 3 years. And South Africa urges cooperation at G20 summit amid tensions over Ukraine.
In business, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows money supply reaches record 110.9 trillion naira in January 2025.
And in sport, Remo Stars go 10 points clear at the top of the Nigeria Premier League after 2-0 win over Kwara United.
Welcome, everybody. Tonight begins right now. We begin tonight with a startling revelation by Nigeria's former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, who for the first time in 32 years has finally publicly conceded that the late Moshood Kashimawo Abiola, popularly known as MKO, won the controversial 1993 presidential election. General Babangida was speaking at the launch of his memoir titled A Journey in Service in Abuja, where he told the gathering that the annulment of the poll was an extreme national interest. Cyril Abaku filed the report.
The high-profile lunch attracted a host of dignitaries, including President Bola Tinubu and former presidents Olusegun Obasanjo, Yakubu Gowon, Abdulsalami Abubakar, and Goodluck Jonathan. The event was chaired by Obasanjo, while the keynote address was delivered by former president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo.
The book will be reviewed, read, quoted, praised, and lambasted, as some will agree with you in part, and some will disagree with you in part. Some may even wholly disagree with you. Why should you write the book? It is self-glorification, they will say. Controversy may even develop. It's all good for you, and it's good for the book, and for our nation-building process.
And for our prospects of effective integration to materialize, the Federal Republic of Nigeria has to assume her historic responsibilities and lead our development towards an integrated, democratic West Africa and Africa. That evolution cannot succeed without you, but you will be its greatest beneficiary.
Former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo reviewed Babangida's memoir.
Upon closer examination of the original collated figures from the 110 polling booths nationwide, it was clear that he satisfied the two main constitutional requirements for winning the presidential elections, mainly majority votes and geographical spread. Having obtained 8,128,720 votes against TOFA's 5,848,247 votes, and securing the mandatory 1/3 of the votes cast in 28 states of the Federation, including Abuja. I am gratified that the Buhari administration finally recognized him as a former head of state of Nigeria.
Son of the celebrator also had some words.
One person who would have loved to be here today, who would have loved to share in this very special moment, would have been our late dear mother and the former First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Mrs. Mariam Babangida.
But such fond memories were not in short supply.
When I visited your school, I said, if you can join the army. And your headmaster at that time or head of school at that time, was one famous teacher called Mr. Onimole. And I think there are about 10 of you who, in the end, decided to join the army.
Then came the moment many had anticipated. It gave the celebrator a historic opportunity to appeal to the nation's conscience.
As the leader of the military administration, I accept full responsibility for all decisions taken under my watch. And June 12 happened under my watch. Mistakes, oversights, and missteps happened in quick succession. Our nation's march to democracy was interrupted, a fact that I deeply regret.
President Bola Tinubu also weighed in with thoughts on the path Nigeria must be on to attain her vital destiny.
I confronted you that you had an opportunity to make history that day, and you failed to do it. Why not inaugurate us? Why are you calling us back and postponing the inauguration day? They thought I will end up in jail. You came out right at the end of the remark. You shook me. I can't forget that picture. You said, you are courageous.
The book also offers insight into key moments in the country's history, including the 1976 coup attempt that led to the assassination of the then head of state, Murtala Mohammed, and the 1986 letter bomb that killed investigative journalist Delegiwa, among others.
Meanwhile, Hafzat Abiola Constello, founder at the Kudirat Initiative for Democracy and one of the daughters of the late MKO Abiola, has been speaking about General Ibrahim Babangida's public acceptance of her late father's victory in the June 12, 1993 presidential polls. In a rousing statement seen by News Central, she said, quote, "When anyone mentions June 12, my mind always goes to MKO and Kudi. But June 12's staying power was because the vote that Nigerians expressed that day was a, quote, was a vote for a better future and for unity. MKO may have been the symbol of Hope 93 campaign, but June 12 was about more than one man. It was about the promise of Nigeria that would deliver for Nigerians. For those that kept expressing doubts that Nigerians had spoken so decisively on that day, I'm glad that General IBB's admission that MKO won the election can now lay the matter to rest. It's sad that such a galvanizing statement as the breakthrough vote for MKO should have been truncated by an unjust annulment, but I will forever be grateful to both MKO and Kudi for not allowing their fears for their personal safety stand in the way of the people's desire for a better Nigeria. May such commitment endure." End of quote. In other news, Edo State House of Assembly has sacked with immediate effect political appointees attached to members of the House. Speaking as that Speaker Blessing Agbebaku announced their sack during plenary session in Benin. He said the decision was taken by the 24 members of the House, adding that the political appointees sacked will be paid their February salary. He listed the appointees to include special advisors, senior special advisors, among others. The Speaker said the appointees were appointed by the members upon assumption of the 8th Assembly in June 2023. Nigeria's federal government has unveiled the Nutrition 774 initiative to address the challenge of malnutrition in children. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima says unhealthy diets in children will inadvertently lower productivity and slow economic growth.
About 40% of Nigerian children under 5 suffer from stunting, 8% from wasting, and 27% are underweight. These are not just numbers, they represent the faces of children whose futures are at risk before they even begin. This is why the Nutrition 774 initiative is not only an urgent but also a turning point. By focusing on grassroots impact, we'll ensure that mothers and children across all communities have access to critical nutrition support where it matters most. This initiative is therefore an invitation to all stakeholders, our governors, ministers, local government chairmen, development partners, and the private sector to take action. It is also a pledge to the people of Nigeria that we will not stand by while our children suffer the preventable consequences of malnutrition.
We have made progress, but we need to interrogate from time to time and do better. And under your leadership, and as witnessed today with this launch, you are yet again taking steps to ensure that all the subnationals are incorporated and their importance is appreciated. And as Mr. President once gave the charge here at the National Economic Council, you and your Mr. President stand ready to support all subnationals to ensure that nutritional outcomes, among other outcomes, are enhanced and made better.
Still ahead tonight. There was a rowdy session at today's plenary as Senator from Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti, standing up to the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. We have details of that and more in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching News Central, and this is Tonight. I'm Adeshawa Josh. A reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, acknowledges late MKO Abiola as winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election. Central Bank of Nigeria retains the interest rate at 27.5%, first hold in almost 3 years. And South Africa urges cooperation at G20 summit amid tensions over Ukraine. The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced its decision to maintain the current monetary policy stance following the Monetary Policy Committee meeting held on Thursday. The monetary policy rate will remain unchanged at 27.5%. Lekon Onobanjo explains the implications of this decision on everyday living.
Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee retained interest rate benchmark at 27.50% at the 299th meeting. This decision marks a departure from the previous trend, signaling a period of observation and assessment as the economy navigates a complex landscape.
The committee was unanimous in its decision to hold all parameters and thus decided as follows. Retain the MPR at 27.50%. Retain the asymmetric corridor around the MPR at plus 500 to minus 100 basis points. Retain the cash reserve ratio of deposit money banks at 50% and merchant banks at 16%. Retain the liquidity ratio at 30%.
The latest MPC decision after the recent rebasing of the gross domestic product and consumer price index, which saw inflation fall from 34.80% to 24.48%, provides a new perspective on the cautious approach being taken.
The committee noted the recent rebasing of the Consumer Price Index, CPI, by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, which reviewed the weights of items in the consumption basket to reflect current consumption patterns.
With inflation having come down by 1,000 basis points, the natural expectation would have been that the NPR would have to reduce to drive growth, but we all know that inflation coming down to 24% is a result of rebasing, not because inflation itself has reduced. So The MPC decision at the moment is, I don't think they had any other option. I think the only thing they could do was hold, and then they would have to go back to the drawing board and determine how to respond to this rather unusual, if not unprecedented situation.
With this latest monetary decision, the coming months will be crucial in determining whether the CBN's cautious approach is the right one, if other adjustments will be made, if the financial and business markets will improve, and ultimately, if Nigerians will feel the impact. In Lagos for News Central, Lekan Onobanjo.
Mokhtar Mohammed, an economic analyst, joins me now from Lagos for more on this story. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to us tonight. After 6 consecutive increases, the MPC pauses rate hike. Help us understand what's going on here.
Of your analysts have said it's a rate hike that is based on rebasing. And there's no economy in the world that has dealt with inflation by rebasing. So that is a very peculiar situation we are finding ourselves, whereby when dealing in inflation, this time we are not used to the orthodox trend of reducing hiking interest rate, reduction of liquidity and others. Rather, we are seeing rebasing for the first time being a tool to reduce inflation in Nigeria. For me, it's very, very awkward. But again, there's nothing wrong with rebasing. But like I keep saying, rebasing that does not bring food to the table of the ordinary Nigeria and does not drag investors into this country is just economic magic. Right. So we need to begin to think of how to drive our economy forward rather than just looking at rebasing.
Why did you say that's awkward? Why is it awkward?
Because there's no economy in the world whereby to drive down inflation you do rebasing. There's no economy in the world that has done that. Rebasing is not a tool that deals with inflation. So that's why I'm saying it's awkward, because you are using rebasing as a tool to deal with inflation. You see, if you look at that NBS report, food inflation is still high, exchange rate is still high, cost of living is still high. There's nothing that has come down based on that. So the only thing that has come down is the total inflation figure because of rebasing. So rebasing is not a tool that brings down inflation. Rebasing is a tool for you to see more new advancement in the economy and how that advancement can attract new investors to grow the economy and create growth. It is the first time we are seeing the noise about rebasing all about reducing inflation. It's not a tool that helps to reduce inflation. It's a tool that identifies new areas in the economy to attract new investors, not to bring down inflation. Because on reality, you said inflation has come down by 10%. Food inflation has come down from but that's not true. You just need to go to the market and then you realize that nothing has happened.
If I understand you, this is just a charade. This is just numbers. It has no real impact on the average ordinary person in the country. So what would you say the immediate impact of this decision is?
We have seen the immediate impact from the CBN Monetary Committee. I mean, they've decided to hold rate for a time. They want to do the wait and see how this rebasing will help stabilize the economy. With this rebasing, help attract investors into the economy. We're already saying that foreign investors love coming to the Nigerian economy because of the risk-free nature in terms of our treasury bill or our Eurobond. But with this rebasing now, that means fixed income space has gone a little bit low. The return on fixed income are low, so you cannot attract those kind of investors. Again, that will help you also bring in those effects that is required to create stability in the exchange rate. I say it over and over, and I stand to be corrected. Whatever we are doing now that does not bring down the effects, that does not bring down exchange rate, is just a measure that will definitely not be able to sustain the economy.
And that's pretty worrisome because, you know, a lot of people want that to happen very quickly, in fact. And with Nigeria's inflation rate still standing at 24.48 after rebasing, how do you see the CBN juggle the need to control inflation and still spur economic growth at the same time?
You can see that from the Monetary Committee meetings, you see that they were taken aback by it because until recently, even globally, we have to understand that inflation would end the year at about 34%. And all of a sudden, through rebasing, now we are seeing that inflation has taken a backseat. So they're also taken aback by it. You can see it. That's why for the first time, there seems to be no movement. They want to see how that will plan out in the economy. Will it be able to attract foreign investors? The key driver of Nigerian inflation is FX. It has the FX, foreign exchange. As long as we don't stabilize that rate, because over 70 to 80% of what we consume, we import. So we need to stabilize that space. And once we stabilize that space, then definitely cost of goods and services will come down. In a situation whereby you are bringing inflation to rebasing, by saying inflation has come down by almost 10%, and the Nigerian Port Authority is already hiking import fee almost by 15%. How do you comprehend that? So going forward, I think the CBN have their work cut out. Remember, the budget also have been increased, and so there's going to be a lot of liquidity in the system. That's a tool that CBN will want to use to drive down inflation. But again, when you drive that inflation in Nigeria, when you reduce liquidity, you kill one of the most vibrant sector, which is the informal sector that's largely driven by liquidity. So the CBN have their work cut out, and I think that is why they just decided to wait and see what happened after this rebasing.
And Mukhtar, it doesn't also help that we don't produce much, does it? We import and continue to import. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Mohammed, an economic analyst, to speak to us on the implication of MPC rate being retained the first time in 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's take you back to our top story about former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida, who for the first time in 32 years has finally publicly conceded that the late Mashood Kashimawo Abiola won the controversial 1993 presidential election. I'm being joined by Abdulmumin Abiola, one of the sons of the late MKO Abiola, to talk more on this issue. We really do thank you for making the time to speak to us. So tell me, did you ever imagine that this day would come in your lifetime?
I don't know if I imagined this day was going to come. I don't know. Is this supposed to be a day? I don't know if there's something that has happened that I didn't already know to be true. I think anybody who was around during 1993 elections would have known that Abiola won the elections even before the last vote was cast. You know, the atmosphere and the even as I was very young, if you know, when this was happening, and I could also tell, I was a baby, but I could tell that my father had won. You know, you could see the smiles on people's faces. You could understand. You could also tell that, you know, I think my father's message had resonated across, you know, all the 6 senatorial districts. So I think if you want to, if you needed Babangida, the former general, to tell you that Abiola had won, I think most people who knew anything about the 1993 elections would have attested to the fact that the man had won the other elections, and he had won the election. I think the only thing I took from what the former head of state said was that he has a lot of regrets for the decisions that he had taken at the time. I think that's most important. You know, it's human to err. When nobody's perfect. In Islam, it says that only Allah is perfect, and we all just seek forgiveness. So I'm pleased that he regrets the actions he took, and he also said that if he had a chance, he would probably take he would have made another decision. And I think my father also understood that as well. Yeah.
Right. You see, I agree with you. It's just, a lot of people are just saying, why now though? Because Babangida said he annulled the June 1993 election to protect the country's interest. An interest that clearly tested the close friendship of the 2 elder statesmen, because they were friends, weren't they? What were those interests that were so strong that June 12 had to happen?
Okay. Yeah, they were friends. Actually, when I was born in December 18th, 1984, Babangida was actually like a guest of honor at my naming ceremony. So they were very close friends. And I think the relationship was built over time. You know, I've always been one to not dwell on the past.
Fair enough.
But forge ahead, you know, I think it's most important. I think, you know, like you said, it's 32 years after the fact. You know, it's like giving somebody Panadol after he dies. It doesn't solve Nigeria's present problems. And
which is why I'm asking,
my father would
why
even say
now?
The same thing.
Why now is what everybody, you rightly mentioned that everybody knew who won the election at the time, but it was quite critical for the head of state at the time to come in and accept the results and let it just go. But the decisions that were taken right after the annulment and all that happened to, I mean, we don't want to go back into history, just like you said, you want us to keep looking forward, really, really took Nigeria down a path that we all didn't want to go, and we're all still recovering from, if you ask me. So in hindsight, would you say those interests were worth the sacrifices it took to preserve them?
You know, like I said, the statement of like human being fallible, you know, we all make decisions and we don't necessarily know the consequences of those decisions right away. You know, it takes time to, you know, to get to that point. But like I would say something, yes, there are more questions that this revelation brings up. But in the interest of the message that my father was trying to get across in 1993, in that interest of the hope that was created in Nigeria in that time, it might be a little, you know, you said it yourself, we're all jaded, we're all traumatized by the events of that time. It might just be worse if we try to keep, you know, there'll be more revelations to come up. But I think what we should more focus on, let's not focus on who won the elections, who did not win the elections, but what was the message? What was my father trying to get across? How is Nigeria today compared to that time? Some of those issues being addressed. And I think if we focus on that, you know, we find that during my father's time, maybe we're like 120 million people. Now we're like 280 or 220. If we're 220 million, is the situation that was once like farewell to poverty in 1993 is now farewell to disaster now. You know, so I think it's most important that we acknowledge that people make mistakes. It's human to error. And now that he has come up to say that he feels regret and remorse, he has also seen the effects of those decisions that were made. I'm not going to belittle
the courage to say this out loud.
From my head of state. But I will just say that him and my father were friends. I think when they were taking my father to jail, he was saying, Babangida is my friend. You know, it's like, I'm not going to cry more than the bereaved, but what I will say is the message, the hope that my father and my mother sacrificed their lives for, the hope for a better Nigeria, is now vested in me to move that forward. So my motivation and my drive is not to talk about my mom being killed on the streets of Lagos. No, it's not to talk about what happened to my father, but to get that hope, the hope for a better Nigeria. I think that's all we all want. So yes, you know, Babangida has come to talk about June 12, but like you have to understand that this was not necessarily only about my father. There were many other people that went there, like Ken Sarawiwa. There were so many people that I'm sure the book would also have more light to shed on their situation. But I think what's the most important is how is Nigeria moving forward? I'm sorry.
It's fine, because you are going on a tandem that I could stay on for the whole night. But I want to quickly put in this question. What does the timing of this public concession by a military head of state say about the state of Nigeria's democracy?
I'm sorry, can I get the question again?
I said, what does the timing of this public concession by a military, this public acceptance you've conceded by a military head of state saying that, you know, I'm walking this back. What does this say about the state of Nigeria's democracy?
Okay, I think, you know, like I said, you know, hindsight is 20/20. You know, when you go in front, you can now see some, and you make amends. And I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to, you know, express his sorrow in the decisions he made, which is fine. for me, I also think that we're looking at it as just about what he said about Abiola. He wrote a book, and I think he's trying to build a library. So it was actually a donation for his library. This didn't really have anything to do with Abiola. Everybody's just talking about what he said about Abiola. But this was not in any way to do with Abiola. This is just what happened in the book. So it's probably one chapter in like 12 chapters of different things that had happened during this time as the head of state. So for me, I'm going to wait to get to read the book or to see what to get more information. But like I said, it's not about the past; it's about the future.
That's right.
And I think that there's a lot of work that we need to do to move Nigeria forward.
That's right. Thank you so much, Abdul. I mean, in all fairness, it's not about the past; it's about the future. A lot of people did want to hear him say it, though, and I guess now it's closure for many Nigerians. If we like.
Okay, let's move on.
Abdul Mumin Abiola, you did say, though, you said there will be more revelations to come. I'm holding that in my left hand and looking forward to it. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. You have a lovely night.
The news returns after this short break. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Tempers flared in the Senate on Thursday when the lawmaker representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti, was reassigned another seat. The adjustment of a seating arrangement was as a result of the vacuum created by the movement of Senators Nwoko and Francis Ezenwa from the PDP to the APC, enabling them to move seats to the ruling aisle of the divide. The chief whip of the Senate noted that the Senate's standing rules permit the Senate President to reallocate seats to lawmakers at his discretion. Members of Zaka community in Safana local government area of Katsina State say their lands are being invaded by bandits. Last month, the community came under fire from the Nigerian Air Force during a routine raid of terrorist hideouts. Residents say their farmlands have been confiscated across 5 local districts, leaving them with no means of livelihood. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu has the details.
It's a mini town hall session here in Zaka village, Safana local government area of Katsina State. These community members are saying that they have been under siege by bandits who have forcefully taken over their lands in the last few years. They narrated various unpleasant ordeals ranging from attacks to abductions. Anytime they free the hostages, they normally send them with a message to inform everyone that they are planning to take over this Zaka town.
I can say it and I can repeat it even in front of the governor of Katsina State, because we discussed the issue with him. Me and him and all the subordinates, including the district head of the car, he is there.
I picked this cassava to cook for my children. Then all of a sudden, I heard my son scream saying, "Daddy," when I turned, I just saw this wicked bandit Harisu place a gun on my ear. His second now placed another gun on my stomach. God help me, all my children ran away and left me with one child who couldn't run. They now kidnapped us. I asked them, "Where are we going?" And they said, "I know where they are going." I answered, "Yes. Is it not Yoni? Let's go." I now followed the main road, and he said I should not follow the main road, that I should follow the bush, that they only understand bush language. When I followed the bush, we arrived at a spot where a brand new motorcycle was parked. Nobody has that kind of motorcycle here, not even our security operatives here. Brand new. He pushed me down and tied my hands and said I should hold my son. And I said, "You tied my hand, I can't hold my son." They now untied me. We then moved to Damji, the next village, where he stopped and announced to the villagers to leave their farms because they are the ones telling the people of Zaka town that bandits are coming to attack them. Local government election day was the same day the airstrike and the attack happened because the bandits were informed that the electoral officers would be coming to conduct elections. So the bandits were informed to stop the election and kidnap and kill everyone they can.
tun da aka fara ta'addanci iyayen 'yan ta'addan nan suna shigowa garinmu muna tare da su.
Since this terrorism started, we have been seeing these terrorists visit our community, and we had a cordial relationship with their wives and husbands. No Zakka resident or any security personnel have ever harmed them. Abubakar Bazata is a 72-year-old resident, one who has borne the brunt of banditry as his only child was kidnapped and murdered even after he had paid ransom to secure his release. My son was killed, and again on Saturday, during the attack and airstrike, my grandchild was also killed. He just came to me and said, "Baba, I'm going out, but they are bringing you food." The next time I hear from him was seeing his lifeless body. He was killed by bandits. Some of the community members believe government's inability to end banditry speaks of collusion and compromise.
We know there is one belief, we say government inaction is also an action which serves as government policy. This means that government of Kaduna State government are supporting banditry issue. That is the clear, that is our belief.
With just one road serving as the only entry and exit points out of the community, this has made escape by residents extremely difficult when attacked by bandits and kidnappers. In Katsina for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has warned that strife is threatening an already fragile global coexistence. He was speaking after officially opening the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting in Johannesburg on Thursday. The meeting held under South Africa's G20 presidency and is part of a series of ministerial gatherings leading to the G20 Leaders Summit in November. Discussions are expected to center on global geopolitical tensions, economic cooperation, and diplomatic relations. We'll take another short break. When we come back, we'll be talking business news and sports. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It's time to talk money with Adebola. Adebola, what do we have?
Well, in the business category, we have Nigeria's broad money supply, surging to 110.98 trillion naira in January of 2025, marking a 17.3% year-on-year increase from 94.61 trillion naira in January 2024, according to CBN data. Now, this and more shortly. Do stay tuned.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
In the world of business, Nigeria's broad money supply surged to 110.98 trillion naira in January 2025, marking a 17.3% year-on-year increase from 94.61 trillion naira in January 2024, according to CBN data. Now, the rise is driven by higher net foreign and domestic assets, signaling improved reserves and increased borrowing. However, the CBN did not disclose December 2024 figures, creating a gap in monetary analysis. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee meets this week to discuss interest rate amid inflation concerns. Net foreign assets climbed to 35.39 trillion naira, while domestic assets reached 75.59 trillion naira, reinforcing Nigeria's expanding financial landscape. The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, has successfully auctioned the defunct Heritage Bank's assets, including landed properties and chattels, to reimburse depositors. Managing Director Bello Hassan disclosed this in Kaduna at the 46th Kaduna International Trade Fair, stating that proceeds would settle depositors with balances above 5 million naira, with additional payments as recoveries continues. Now, the NDIC had reimbursed insured depositors within 4 days of the bank's license revocation in June 2024. Let's now tell you what happened today on the Nigerian exchange, where the Nigerian exchange benchmark all-share index dipped by minus 0.04 percent points to close at 108,568.50 base point. And for market capitalization, is closed at 67.56 trillion naira. At the end of the trading sectoral performance being tracked, 2 ended in red while 3 stayed in green. For that category, the banking sector dipped by minus 0.68%, while insurance gained 0.53%. And of course, gains were recorded for the consumer goods at plus 0.69%, being the highest, and also gain in industrial sector at plus 0.01%. Losses recorded basically for this category were banking and oil and gas. And that's a wrap on Business News tonight.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
It's time for some sports news, and Favor is here with the latest. Favor, what do we have?
Yeah, a lot of things happening in the Nigerian scene, and talking about the Nigeria Premier Football League, many more after this timeout.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
And in sport, league leaders Remo Stars defeated visiting Kwara United 2-0 in Ikenne this evening to go 10 points clear at the top of the Nigeria Premier Football League with 30 matches to go. Striker Arinze Anakwe opened the scoring in the 79th minute of the 10th encounter after the opposition goalkeeper spilled a free kick from Unduka Jr. Midfielder Hadi Aruna sealed the win, poking the ball into the net in the 4th minute of the added time after the goalkeeper spilled another shot. In another match played today, Katsina United compounded Eiba's woes with a 2-1 win at the Muhammadu Diko Stadium in Katsina. Bello Lukman scored a brace for the host before Ekene Awazie scored a consolation penalty in the 92nd minute, his 3rd goal of the season. And now to continental football, the knockout stage draws for the CAF Champions League and Confederation Cup were finalized today in Doha, Qatar, setting up exciting clashes across both competitions. In the Champions League, title holders Al Ahly of Egypt will take on Sudan's Al Hilal, while Pyramid FC face Morocco's Asfar. MC Oja will battle Orlando Pirates of South Africa, while the key clash of the round will see former champions Mamelodi Sundowns of South Africa go up against Tunisia's Esperance de Tunis. In the Confederation Cup, South African newcomer Stellenbosch will challenge defending champions Zamalek. Morocco's RS Berkane will square up against Ivory Coast's ASEC Mimosa, while Algeria's CS Constantine will battle fellow Algerians USM Alger. And back in Nigeria, the Nigerian Football Federation has mandated that all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory must hold their 2025 President Federation Cup finals on either Saturday, February 22nd or Sunday, February 23rd. Any deviation without NFF approval will attract a fine of 1 million naira. The directive issued to State Football Association secretaries aims to ensure a smooth transition to the national playoffs set for March 5th. The national draw will follow on March 12th with quarterfinal slated for May 3rd and 4th, while semi-final will take place on May 17th and 18th. No date or venue has been scheduled for the final. And that's it all on Sports News tonight.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Welcome back. Edo is here with the latest in entertainment news. What do we have tonight?
Well, I'm back again. Remember yesterday we spoke about Portable, and he's still in the news because he's been arraigned by a magistrate court, and yes, they read him his charges, and he's been granted bail 2 million naira. But I'll give you all the details shortly.
Okay.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And straight to entertainment now. Controversial singer Habib Okikiola, known as Portable, was arraigned in an Aboikita magistrate court on charges related to the alleged assault of government officials. After being declared wanted by the Ogun State Police, Portable surrendered to the Lagos State Criminal Investigation Department and was later transferred to the Ogun State Command Headquarters. He faced 5 charges, including conspiracy, assault, and armed conduct for allegedly attacking 3 town planners while they were performing official duties at his bar. Now, 9 of his aides were also arraigned on similar charges, but Portable pleaded not guilty, and his lawyer requested bail, which was granted at 2 million naira with 1 shorty. Now, the case has been adjourned till March 5th for trial. Speculations say that he might have, met the bail requirements already, but we're definitely going to bring you that update by tomorrow, because we know that if he comes out, Portable will definitely drop a banger, like he always does.
Okay. Maybe that's his secret to his creativity. I'm just messing around.
Well, who knows? He comes out and says, hey, this is what he did to me in prison. But yeah, he's always trying to bring out new stuff every time this happens. But let's talk about Diddy. Now, Diddy is challenging a charge in the revised indictment against him, arguing that the legislation is racist. Now, the motion filed on Tuesday targets the count on transportation for prostitution, one of the charges in the case of involving sex trafficking and racketeering. Now, his defense claims that Diddy, as a powerful black man, is being unfairly singled out under the Mann Act, a law originally designed to combat the interstate transport of women for sexual purposes. Now, the defense also asserts that all sexual encounters involving Diddy were consensual and accuses the government of leaking damaging information to the media to bias the case. Now, while the prosecution has rejected these claims of racial bias, Diddy has pleaded not guilty, and his trial is scheduled for May 5th. If he's convicted, he faces a potential lifetime sentence. Adishawa, what do you think?
Oh, I think nothing about Diddy.
Wow.
Really, I mean, not in a bad way, but one minute you think the world has ended when it comes to Diddy, next thing he releases a banger and everyone is listening to it. I do think though, I do think that he deserves fair hearing.
Yeah.
And that much I know he deserves.
All right, well, let's see what happens May 5th.
All right.
All right, that's all on entertainment tonight.
Thanks, Adira.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's former military head of state, Ibrahim Babangida, acknowledges late MKO Abiola as winner of June 12, 1993 presidential election. Central Bank of Nigeria retains interest rate at 27.5%, first hold in almost 3 years. And South Africa urges cooperation at G20 summit amid tensions over Ukraine. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, AVO, and YouTube. We would like to thank you for watching. I'm Adeshewa Josh. I'll see you tomorrow. Those 2 stories.
I like it.